Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, we are on episode 317. And a little topic we thought we'd chat a little bit about tonight is new bugs, new problems. So, as things get warmer, for whatever reasons, the fact of the matter is a lot of new species of insects are migrating into areas where they never were before. And I know specifically here in Nova Scotia, just before we started up, Ben and I were talking, and just a couple examples. We now have new species of ticks here in Nova Scotia that we never had before, coming with new.
Congrats, Nova Scotia.
What's that?
I said, congratulations, Nova Scotia.
Funny enough, as I was researching for this topic, I learned that Nova Scotia, like tick-wise, is one of the heaviest or most densely covered area with ticks or something like that per capita, just for our size, versus how many ticks we got jammed into this piece of land. We're like one of the world's heaviestly populated with ticks. Now that's taking all ticks into consideration.
I mean, I'm no expert, but I think the type of terrain and the weather, like it's relatively mild with lots of grasses and stuff, and it's evenly moist so that it's not like it's got like a really wet season and a very dry season. Like it's a bit more uniform. It's probably quite conducive to them surviving well.
Oh, absolutely. And ticks are pretty hardy to begin with, right? But the thing was, we always had really cold winters. And when I worked for Natural Resources, one of the things we always told people was like, look, we got to get a really cold spell in the winter, and it's going to last like 3 to 4 weeks to start killing tick eggs. When was the last time, when you were still back here in Nova Scotia, you remember 4 weeks of really cold weather? Like, you might get 2.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like, I remember this. Like, it would snow, and then the sun would come out, and most of it would melt. Like, we had clear roads most of the year. Like, I honestly thought winter tires seemed like a bit of a waste, and it's a huge controversial subject when I was there. But like my argument was, more often than not, I had clean, dry pavement.
Yeah, because we have warmer winters. You know what I mean?
There was day or two of bad, but then I'd have dry for quite a few days again. So it was sporadic at best. So yeah, I can see them surviving, and so it's definitely considered.
Well, I was going to say, we're close to the same age, and you're from Newfoundland, so you should know this even more than I do. When we were kids, can you remember the average snowfall? Well, not the average, but if somebody was saying, oh, we're getting a foot of snow tonight, it wasn't really like a massive disaster. It was just kind of like, oh, crap, guess I'm going to have to shovel before I go to work tomorrow. And now if you get a foot of snow, it's like the apocalypse is coming. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the difference. It's just so different now.
Man, I spent 2 weeks in Newfoundland this year, and I shoveled every day.
Okay, Newfoundland's a bad example. It always gets snow. But I mean,
specifically what are you talking about? Like, it may not have been a foot, but there was always snow coming down. Like, it was pretty consistent.
Yeah, but even when you were back here in Nova Scotia, like probably around the first part there, it's only been like 15 years ago. I can still remember significantly more snow and colder weather. 20 years ago, it's completely different. And 30 years ago, when I was, like 10, it was completely different weather than it seems like we have now. It seems like our entire seasons, for one, have almost been pushed ahead a month. And the seasons are milder all the way around. And it seems to be pretty consistent, at least here in Canada.
And even back home, whereas it is a lot colder, we do get more snow. It isn't as good, and people complain about it because they say that snowmobiling is not like it used to be. You used to be able to go for miles and miles pretty well from early November, maybe even late October sometimes. Like I can remember trick-or-treating in snowsuits and having to kick snow out of my way. That's not a thing anymore, right? And not for Halloween, right?
I took Lily out on the lawnmower last Halloween. We hooked up a trailer to the back of the ride-on lawnmower, and she was just wearing like a t-shirt and stuff. We rode around.
I don't know if it was 2001 or 2002, but it was one of those 2 years. I went camping with my cousin, and the tent collapsed from the weight of snow.
I can remember when I was a kid, like you said, trick-or-treating in a snowsuit or snowstorms happening on Halloween, and you're wondering if it's going to get canceled. Like being a kid going, oh no, is Halloween going to be canceled? Or, oh, we're just going to walk to the neighbors. And that meant, as a country bumpkin like us, that you were going to 3 houses at best. Because that's as far as you could walk.
Yeah. So your point though
Yeah,
is we have new wildlife, specifically bugs. But we do know that there's even new fish being found off the shores. There's birds that we normally didn't see that are coming up. So the ecology is changing overall, and some of these bugs are bringing with them uh, diseases and other issues. And we have to accommodate for this, and we have to protect ourselves. One I think you're going to mention, is the Lone Star.
exactly. The Lone Star tick has now been spotted in Nova Scotia. It's not densely populated, but there has been cases, as well as there has been cases of that new disease, and I actually pulled up the name of it here. It's called not yet established uh, alpha gal syndrome.
Alpha gal, yeah. I seen something on that this week on TikTok too. A girl complained about it because she was trying to do a brisket, and they're like, "You can't handle red meat anymore." And she's like, "I hate these."
So if
So
anybody doesn't know what this alpha gal syndrome is it like you get bit, you get infected, it destroys the enzyme in your body that breaks down red meat. So you can no longer eat red meat. Your body rejects it. So you can still eat white meats and things like that, but for anybody that likes like steak and hamburgers and roasts, you know what I mean? Like that would be a drastic change to my lifestyle.
there's a level of joy that disappears with that.
And that's
For
what I
sure.
mean. But I mean, weird and wonky things. And it's not just that. Other things, and once again, I'm pulling from Nova Scotia because, you talk about what you know. But we now have like the Western black-legged tick that's coming here. We have like beaver ticks. We got the Lone Star tick. There's been cases of the Rocky Mountain tick being spotted. These are all new ticks to this area. Like back when I worked with natural resources, we always used to boast like, oh, we only have like 11 or 12 different types of ticks here in Nova Scotia. And now it's like 30 something.
So yeah, so what can you do to protect yourself from it? That's a really good question that people are going to be asking. And there is a lot of things. DEET definitely works. Bertram, I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. It's not as easy to get in Canada, but I know like if you go to like the farmers co-ops, they sell it for horses.
I was going to say you have to buy the horse version. Of all things, that's what you're going to buy in Canada to get it.
But the trick with that, and if you can get to the States, they sell it pretty cheaply actually. You can buy it in like liter bottles. You soak clothing in it and then let it dry, and whatever impregnates with the perfume, while it's a liquid, it is fairly toxic, especially around cats and stuff. I think dogs. But keep it away from your pets. But once it's dry, it's no longer harmful to them, but it's still harmful to the bugs. And so if they crawl on the clothing, they pretty well die within a few seconds, and it makes that an option. It keeps mosquitoes and other bugs away too. So it's a really useful product, and I think it's similar to what the No Fly from Mark's Work Warehouse. I've got a few articles of their clothing. It's supposed to keep flies away, and it has worked for me. I have a bandana I carry when I'm on a motorcycle, and if I keep that around my neck, I do notice significantly less flies when I stop than the people who don't have this. So that kind of works. Ticks we've talked about before is the same thing, but just gators. Ticks will tend to climb straight up, and gators will help them get underneath your jeans. It'll mean
Keeping your clothing tucked in is something that's real easy to do and is basic. I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, but Drifting Spore, Steve is saying, pimethrin is the crush petals of the... I know what the word is, but this is where the dyslexia comes in and I can't say it. Melissa... Yeah, say it out loud again. Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum.
Scream it. And nobody's going to hear me. I'm going to die trying to say that.
Chrysanthemum.
That. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't get dyslexia, because you can't say big words. But anyway, yeah. The crushed up petals of that flower. And that makes sense.
Bushcrafting with two redneck.
Mums? There you go. I can say that. Mums.
Yeah, so it does work. It is a good product. Obviously, Canadian government has some concerns with health, and I do respect that. Like they are looking out for us, I guess. But Lyme disease and Lone Star seems to be pretty bad too. So I'm gonna balance my needs there, and I'm going to always go with the one that doesn't involve no red meat.
Exactly, and even getting away from the ticks. And I preach ticks a lot because that's the big one we got here. But the new big one we got that Ben and I were talking about before we started up, the Asian lady beetle, which mimics a ladybug, but I mean they're destructive to crops, plants. They're invasive to houses. They cluster when they kind of come in to go dormant for the winter. They infect your pets. They can get up in the roofs of their mouths and bite in. They bite on like a ladybug. And if you end up crushing a couple of these things, they do smell terrible.
Yeah. So,
And like what? Not even as much as 7 years ago? I don't even think we had them in Nova Scotia.
well, there were no. I swear to God, there was no ticks in Newfoundland when I grew
No,
up.
there wasn't. It
Or
was
in
an
town.
island. They had none because there not a whole lot of deer over on Newfoundland at that time, was there?
There's no deer.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought there was now. They've migrated in as the temperatures got warmer. Kind of came through
Coyotes.
Labrador. Still none? I thought you had mule deer or something like that.
Not that. Oh, maybe I'm not aware of any.
Oh, I don't
There
know.
was. We had caribou and moose, and that was it growing
Mm.
up. Um, but and there's a lot of other animals we didn't have, so it was nice. But like no snakes, no raccoons, no porcupines. Uh, these were not things I had to deal with. Uh,
But now, as the temperatures change, those things are migrating that way. Once again, just coming over here to Eastern Canada, we get more wolves now. There's more reports of cougars, whether you believe they're here or not. There's more reports of them statistically. I mean, we're getting wild turkeys in Nova Scotia. We never had wild turkeys in Nova Scotia. Mind you, it's still on the border of New Brunswick, but they are migrating this way. Like, we're getting new species. And as bushcrafting people or outdoorsy people, whatever you want to call us, this is changing the areas that we go and spend our recreation in. We now have to better prepare ourselves for bugs that we never, well, maybe don't even know about. So the first thing we got to do is educate ourselves, figure out how we protect ourselves, perhaps change the way we used to go out. Like when I was a kid, I do not remember ever having a tick on me. Like ever. I don't remember having a tick on me until I was in my 20s.
so, and a couple other things, and I'm not going to say these are 100% foolproof, but I've had good success with these citronella candles around your site, uh, and mosquito coils, especially like inside of tents and stuff. If you're coming in and out all day, especially you're doing a couple of days in the same site, mosquitoes, black flies, no-see-ums, they get inside your tent and they're very annoying. And I always found you burn one of those incense like mosquito coils for about 15, 20 minutes with all the doors closed and sealed. And when you come back in, most of them are dead at the bottom of the floor, and that's much better. There's not much more annoying than the buzz in your ear in the middle of the night. Um, if you do get bit, especially by a tick, it's not a bad idea to have a small Ziploc bag or something to keep it in. And rather than just destroy it and burn it or whatever, it's very tempting. A pill bottle, maybe a little bit of alcohol in the bottom, whatever you want. But you can bring that in and give it to your doctor. Or they may suggest a place. I know there was a place in Nova Scotia, I think it's now in New Brunswick, that will do an evaluation on it. But that comes and goes. They stopped for a while. They may have taken it back up. But, you know, there's the bullseye rash or any rash, really. If you get a rash from it, get it checked out. It's a sign that you got something.
Yep, and I mean there's a new one just started coming here, and see if I can get this one right. It's anaphylamosis. It basically acts like Lyme disease, but the good thing about this is it's not Lyme disease. It's just basically all the same symptoms, but it will remedy itself in like 90 days or something like that. But it's new since 2003. The last 2 years is the only time we've had this year.
Okay. Yeah. So, educate yourself. Educate yourself with what issues exist in your particular area, and also kind of understand the type of environments that are more prevalent to it. And that doesn't mean guaranteed, but we always found grassy areas. You were much more likely to pick up ticks in grassy areas. And what I believe they do is they crawl to the top of the grass and they hang out there with their little arms waving. And if something walks by, they latch on it and they keep crawling until they find somewhere warm and comfortable to bite in. But my mother had picked one up years ago, and we only walked cleared trails. So she may have brushed across a leaf, or it may have fallen from a tree, or who knows how she got it, but it definitely scared her. So these are things you kind of have to, like, if you're in the woods, do a check. Do a check a couple of times a day. And if you see signs, like if you see some on your clothing, then there's probably more. Get a friend or your enemy, I don't care who, get somebody to look you over and remove any of them, a coworker, whatever, and do a thorough check. Like, go into the washroom with a mirror or your camera or something and check the areas that you can't so easily get someone else to check. Or if you got a significant other, that really helps. But yeah, they can get in some pretty small crooks and crannies. Check like behind your ears, under your armpits, anywhere warm and moist that they might really find comforting, especially along your hairline. Like a good comb can get a lot of it out. Just check that stuff, because if it's in there, it can cause a lot of problems. So definitely take those precautions. And they'll potentially be on your body for a long time before they actually even bite in. So you'll oftentimes catch them before they bite. And once they bite, it doesn't hurt. You might not even notice it until they're pretty big. So
Yeah, I was going to say they don't start drinking right away either. The thing with ticks, and I'm not a doctor first and foremost, and I'm not giving medical advice. See, liability clause. Most ticks that have like Lyme disease, which is the big one most people worry about, that disease or bacteria, it kind of goes dormant in the tick's stomach, and it has to have that infusion of blood, and it has to reanimate itself and get enough, gumph to swim back out and into the bloodstream, and that doesn't happen with the initial bite. They have to be attached for a little bit of time. So that's why, like Ben said, it's a good idea to check yourself on a regular basis, because even if it's attached, doesn't necessarily mean that it's started feeding yet or anything like that. So you may get them embedded in your skin, but you can still get them out, and they haven't actually, infected you in any way, shape, or form. Now, still take care of those bite areas and stuff like that. Make sure they're disinfected, cover it with a dressing, check on it to make sure you don't get any infection rashes, stuff like that, because you never know. But yeah, and it's not just them. Yeah, that's a tick puller.
yeah. So this one came with this little open L knife I got. It's probably one of the biggest ones. But yeah, it's got two little V-type shapes cut into it. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Focus. And you just hook that underneath their head and pull and twist slightly, and they should come free. You don't want to be too violent with it. You also want to be somewhat careful. They used to hear people say, cover them with something like some Vaseline. And the problem is, what that'll do is it'll upset them, and they'll regurgitate into you before they release. So a tick key like that, not Vaseline like that. Don't cover yourself with that stuff. There's also the match one. Some people say you heat up a match and put it on. Don't do that again. Upsets them. They spit out. It'll probably kill them, but now any disease they have is definitely in you.
Or if nothing else, you got their mouth parts still in your body, and that's going to cause infection and discomfort.
Yeah. And just remove them that way.
And once again, folks, we're just talking ticks because that's the big prevalent one here. But I mean, there are other bugs coming in, like the longhorn brown spruce beetle. That's an invasive species from a few years back. The gypsy moth, things like that, they're affecting like our trees and things like that. As Ben was saying, knowing the areas, the long grassy areas, like he said, softwood stands typically have more bugs than hardwood stands. Not that you're not getting any with hardwood. It's just softwood typically has more. It generally stays moister in softwood because their limbs come lower down, traps more humidity. It's a better breeding ground for insects. As we're, deciduous trees, their limbs tend to be a little higher. They outreach up. And, they got that long trunk where there's not a lot of limbs. It just doesn't breed a lot of moisture, and it's not super indicative to a lot of creepy crawlies. But still, it's one of those things. Inform yourself. At the start of every year, before I start going out in the woods, and even through the winter, I start doing like local searches through news and Google and everything else. What's some new bugs here? What are new diseases that I need to worry about? What are the new precautions for this? What should I be looking for if I am out walking around? Like, oh, that's a new rash I never had. Like, I got bit by a bug when I was filling up a canteen from a spring in the back of my arm. And it gave me this skin infection that ran completely up and over my shoulder. And it was like the weirdest thing ever. I thought I had ringworm at first, of all things. And I'm like, how would I get ringworm? I'm not rolling in anything. But anyway, what it was a kind of necrosis in my skin. And it traveled up my arm. And once the doctor seen it, it was like, holy crap, we got to get you on some antibiotics. And see if we can get this thing cleaned up. But it came from a spider is what it was. And they're like, yeah, we have this new spider that's been kind of come into the province, and it's now starting to spread around, and that's basically what its bite does. It's not lethal. It's just really uncomfortable. It basically kills a bunch of your skin, and then it kind of turns to this boilish, bubblish looking thing, and then you basically got to fight it off. Like, it's not grand.
No. And, it kind of is what it is. There's, Environment to Canada, they have some good stuff. Take a look at like you said, your local environment. What's the water conditions? What are the trees? What are the environmental issues you want to look out for? These are all things that are worth checking out. If you're in the same area a lot, definitely, take the time to really know it. If you're visiting a place that's new, also, it's really kind of important to see, is there anything that you need to be aware of? Are they having some problems? We've talked about bugs and bad water and other things, and just kind of understand what kind of keeps bugs away. For instance, breezy beaches and stuff like that, usually not a lot of bugs, but you're going to have other problems. But yeah.
So just a shout out to Jacob Thomas. Glad to catch y'all live, recovering from brain surgery. Just the pick-me-up I needed. The guy had brain surgery, and he's still coming back to listen to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. What's your excuse, folks? Shameless plug. Oh, Jacob, glad to hear you're doing good, buddy. We're just having a little fun. Hopefully nothing serious, man. Sincerely hope you rebound quick, all is well, and that all cleans up for you, man. Thanks for joining us, but dude, as much as we appreciate it, if you need rest, go get some rest, man.
We could be the rest,
Any case, this wasn't supposed to be a long topic here tonight. We're not going to beat a dead horse and keep you folks bored out there. It was just getting you thinking. It's happening everywhere. It's not just here in Nova Scotia. I just happened to be going through my routine because I got some trips planned out, and we're starting to plan vacations and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, it's time to start looking at the new things I need to be aware of. And I was like, holy crap. Do other people do this? Maybe it's worth a chat about. And I reached out to Ben, and off we went. And I know we are a night late, folks. Truth be told, old Roberto, I was off on a conference, and when I came in, it was already late. I was exhausted. And Ben was like, yeah, we can do it tomorrow night. And I was like, awesome. And Ben did text me not long after the podcast would have begun, and been like, so we're still good for tomorrow night. And I was already out. Like, hard out and gone. So I don't think I would have made it through it. So hopefully all you folks understand and it's all good. But any closing thoughts there tonight, Ben?
No, that's about it. Just keep yourself familiar, take some basic precautions, carry, some good what we call fly dope, but fly repellent. There's screens you can put on to keep flies and stuff off of you. A buddy of mine did a trip up north, and the mosquitoes up there would carry you away. He said without the mosquito netting and stuff, he wouldn't have been able to do it. And I heard people here say ticks haven't really been a problem here, but I'm looking on the maps and they are coming here. Like they're
migrating out, man. They're going to be everywhere. You know what I mean?
So it's good to be aware of them, and if you see them, know how to deal with them. Yeah, I know you've had your experiences, and we could go for hours on that. But
we've already talked about those in the past.
If you're interested, go check out one of our 400 and something shows.
As Andrew was saying, you can listen to all our previous episodes, not just on Pandora. We're on basically every podcast service out there. So if you just happen to pick up somewhere mid-season, go to whatever podcasting service you like. Throw in the search Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. There's a pretty high chance we're on it. I don't know how we got everywhere, but we seem to be everywhere.
Yeah. Anyways, all. It's a good night from me. Have a great night. Get out there, have fun, and see you next week.
Night, folks. We'll talk to you next week, probably on Wednesday. We'll see you then. Night, all.